the hell out of here, man. I'm not fighting.
Jake!
Oh.
Out.
With under a minute left to play, the Knights need a big stop. The ball snaps, and DeVore charges forward, aiming for the tackle. But it's Tyler Jake, who lands a massive hit instead. The Hornets coach looks desperate, knowing his team needs an intervention. Since they can't bring down the Knights on the field, Moore tries trash talk instead, bringing up Jake's dad. That's all it takes. Jake tackles player 32 again, but this time it's personal. He slams into Moore and doesn't stop there. Anyone who gets in his way feels the impact. Chaos breaks out as players start fighting, leaving the referee powerless. By the time Jake returns to the locker room, bruises tell their own story. One teammate invites him to a party later, but Jake declines. He has to pack for the move out of state. The trouble magnet is headed to Orlando. Back home, his mom isn't impressed by the fight. Tension hangs between them until she has to leave, putting Jake in charge of his younger but fairly independent brother. Jake and Charlie start packing in the garage. Jake makes it clear he's not bothered that Charlie's budding tennis career is the reason for their move. As Charlie shifts a box, it tips over, stirring old memories. Most of their dad's things went to Goodwill, thanks to their mom, but this box slipped through. A different feeling washes over Jake as he picks it up and labels it useless junk. At his new high school, Jake keeps to himself, moving quietly across campus. Partway through his walk, he spots trouble, a guy throwing punches at another while 3 others watch. He steps in to play hero, but it backfires. The guy taking hits turns on him, landing a clean shot just to prove he still belongs in the fight. Jake stands stunned, watching the boy dive back in unfazed. The message is clear. He's not welcome here. Another chance to shine comes in class. The teacher asks a question, but the room stays silent. He turns to a pretty blonde, and Jake answers for her. After class, the girl, Baja, thanks him. They chat for a while, flirting as they learn little things about each other right up until Baja's friends show up and pull her away. Back at home, it's supposed to be a chill family dinner, but Jake's got something on his mind. When his mom asks how school's going, he hits her with some sarcasm. She fires back, playing off his tone, telling him he's been causing too much drama to stay in one place for long. Anyway, the guy Jake tried to help earlier is Max. At lunch, Max comes acting friendly and tells Jake his last football brawl went viral online. That catches Jake's attention. He explains the earlier fight wasn't bullying. It was agreed on, and even has a video to prove it. Max keeps pushing, painting the cool moves and perks like it's something everyone should want. But Jake isn't convinced, nor does he care. Still, Max wasn't exaggerating. Jake's reputation is on everyone's phone, and whispers follow him wherever he goes. On his way home, Baja calls out from the backseat of a car, teasing him before slipping him a piece of paper with a party address. She hopes he shows up, and Jake decides he will. The car pulls away as Jake walks on, a spring in his step. Still not talking to his mom, he ignores his family and heads straight to his room to print a city map for easier wayfinding. Dressed in a clean shirt, he arrives at a party in an impressive house, where he spots Max, and they quickly fall into pal mode, weaving through the crowd together. Max has his camcorder rolling, ready to catch the action. He snaps a moment the girls would rather skip, but he doesn't care. Moving on, Jake meets Ryan, who takes charge like the place is his own. For Ryan, a party with good drinks and bikinis isn't what makes Orlando special. He leads Jake to the balcony to show him something instead of just telling. It's fight night, and anyone can join. Both genders, all races, even exes looking to blow off steam. Jake's curious about who runs the show. A smirk crosses his face as he suddenly sees it in a new way, and it feels almost beautiful. He learns there's no single leader here. Baja arrives fashionably late, catching Jake's attention, but Ryan quickly shifts the focus elsewhere as a crowd gathers, waiting for a fight between him and Jake. Stripping off his shirt to reveal trained muscles and abs, Ryan fires up the crowd and hints that Jake owes them a show, especially after his internet-famous uppercut. Plus, he's curious if he can beat him. Tension rises, but Jake isn't interested in fighting. Not Ryan, not anyone. Still, when Jake glances at Baja, Ryan spots an opening, and with a mischievous glint, walks over to kiss her. The look in Baja's eyes says she's not part of the plan, but the stunt still gets under Jake's skin enough to make him want to leave. At the exit, a guy playing bouncer blocks his way. Ryan is determined to get that fight and isn't above using dirty tactics. He brings up the tragic death of Jake's father, knowing Jake was in the car but wasn't drunk like his dad. Jake leaps to respond, but some guys hold him back. He's fired up and ready to go after Ryan, who's just as eager. The crowd watches, caught up in the tension, while no one notices Baja storming out. Pushing off the guys holding him, Jake closes the distance and shoves Ryan, who grins and says if they're fighting, it'll be professional with gloves on. Jake is ready. The hype man gets everyone to settle, raising his voice just enough to lay down the quick rules. Clean fight, knockout, or tap out ends it. No sooner has he called it than Jake lunges forward, wasting no time. He throws the first punch, missing once, then again, but on the third swing, he connects a clean shot to Ryan's face. Jake keeps going hard while Ryan dodges calculatively. Then, mid-swing, Ryan catches Jake's arm and twists it behind his back. That marks his switch from defense to offense. When Jake charges like a bull, Ryan holds steady, uses his weight and flips him over, driving his opponent straight to the ground, although it's clear Jake is still resisting. Ryan lands a solid punch and steps back to bask in the moment. Jake bumps into a soda cup, flinging its contents into Ryan's face. It works as Ryan flinches, giving Jake a chance to land a clean hit. Someone calls it a cheap shot, and Ryan echoes it. He shrugs it off, gives Jake some credit that he's got cool moves, but still a long way to go. He's ready to teach, both in words and with pain. He strikes his leg low, striking Jake in the calf right where it hurts. Another kick follows, aimed at the sweet spot, and Jake barely blocks it in time. The third jab hits hard. Jake's curled on the floor, and Ryan's not done yet. The sting of humiliation gets Jake back on his feet, but his hook misses. Ryan counters fast, tossing him to the ground and landing blows to his face. Jake scrambles onto all fours, but Ryan isn't waiting. He drives a kick into Jake's jaw, knocking him flat. Jake hits the floor hard, looking out cold. Ryan soaks in the applause while Max keeps the camcorder rolling, catching Jake as he stirs. He announces Jake's getting up, signaling the fight isn't over yet. Jake, still woozy, manages to stand just as Ryan charges forward with aggression. Clumsy but lucky on defense, Jake struggles, his weakness giving Ryan the upper hand to send him back down. Max advises Jake to let the match go, but he doesn't listen. He picks himself up, cradling the pain, looking like a standing comma with his face marked with cuts and bruises. Shivering but determined, Jake still has a line to deliver. Ryan spins and swings his legs in time, delivering a powerful kick to Jake's face that draws blood and possibly teeth. The blow finally puts Jake in oblivion. People snap pictures of the defeated specimen, and Jake's oddly aware of Max carrying him back to his apartment. When he wakes the next morning, his face is a mess with purple bruises and one swollen shut eye. Charlie innocently walks in on him, surprised but not shocked. Their mom isn't around, but unless his face magically heals before she gets back, she'll definitely notice. Jake's in no shape to walk Charlie to the school bus, but thankfully, his little brother understands and lets him be. At school, the fight's still the main topic, kicking off conversations and no different at Baja's table. She can't take it, so she gets up and walks off, leaving her friends confused. The joke of the day is home, nursing bruises. When he spots the box he previously labeled junk, it triggers a flash of memory, fishing, and has him hurling the box across the room like blame wrapped in cardboard. The jolt hits his ribs hard as they're nowhere near healed. Max has his moment too, passing through the hall just in time to catch Ryan in full performance mode, reenacting the fight and milking every move. Back home, Charlie returns from school and warms a slice of pizza with his brother in mind. Jake's fast asleep when he peeks in, so he quietly drops the plate and heads to his room to practice tennis. Later, a knock comes at Jake's door. Max's voice follows, claiming he's with Baja just to get Jake to let him in. Max walks in, not with remorse, but with hope. The kind that assumes last night lit a fire in Jake. He's come prepared, holding out a CD packed with training clips of techniques inspired by his coach, Gene Roqua. It's the second invitation, as Max still believes Jake has something worth building on. But Jake isn't biting. He shuts it down, making it clear Max can't use last night or the aftermath to guilt trip him into anything. Frustrated, Max leaves, but the tape stays behind, something for Jake to fiddle with. Jake finds the training grounds, much to Max's excitement. He greets his pal at the door with a grin and points out Roqua, who hardly needs any introduction. At the center of attention, Roqua's voice fills the room as he demonstrates with a student the proper way to execute a Sioi Naj, flipping an opponent over the shoulder to land them on the ground for a quick headlock. Max introduces Roqua to Jake, speaking up for his interest in taking a class. At first, Roqua spares a glance at Jake's roughed-up face and writes him off, but Jake's determination wins him a spot in the beginner's class alongside Max. Still, Jake's eyes are on the advanced techniques, insisting he's a quick learner. Rokwa just smirks and signals everyone to get in position, ready to show what the advanced class really looks like. At Rokwa's call, the students fall into Circuit 1, which is a fast-paced routine Jake has to keep up with, just like he claimed. It's 1-minute intervals, switching cardio exercises on Rokwa's command. Max calls out and stays close, guiding Jake on what comes next as the group moves through the workout. Rope climbing proves tough, as Jake slips more than once, but Rokwa's encouragement pushes him on. He barely reaches the bar before time's up, already strained. No time to rest though. Rokwa calls for pairs and 3-minute rounds next. Jake takes one look at Miles and assumes he's got this. The guy's smaller and doesn't look like much competition, but as soon as they square up, Miles shifts and flips Jake over quick and with no warning. Jake barely reacts before he's on the ground, arm locked and tight. Rokwa watches and tells him to tap. Jake holds out for a second, trying to resist, but there's nowhere to go. He taps once and it's done. In the next round, Rokwa notices Jake's solid defensive skills. His attacks still miss their mark as Miles smoothly evades, then traps Jake in a rear naked choke. Max urges Jake to surrender this time, but Jake refuses, determined to escape or lose consciousness trying. Eventually, Jake blacks out, only to find Rokwa's concerned face as he comes to. Rokwa helps him up, impressed yet cautioning that his reckless approach could have cost him. Jake insists he might have broken free if he'd stayed conscious, which only earns further respect from Rokwa. Training will resume early the next day, but Rokwa lays down a strict rule. No matter what, his students are forbidden from brawling outside the gym. If word gets out that this golden rule was broken, then the fighter is out. Class wraps up, and Max is already bubbling with excitement, raving about how Jake left an impression on Rokwa. As far as Max is concerned, Jake's earned a spot in the passenger seat. No more riding the bus. Later that evening, Charlie gets the door and is stunned to see a gorgeous blonde standing outside. It's Baja, there to talk things through with Jake. Jake isn't ready to be so forgiving, still convinced she played a role in the stunt meant to humiliate him. Baja appears remorseful and tearful, insisting things weren't supposed to go that far, though she does try to justify it by saying Jake's still cut from the same cloth as the others. He's a fighter, she says, and he just happened to be pushed too far. She tries to draw a parallel between them, saying she's moved around a lot too and only clung to her current role because, for once, she finally fit in, even if it meant playing the part of the popular girl dating the popular guy. But Jake stays unmoved, and eventually, with nothing else left to say, Baja turns and walks away. Jake arrives at the gym a full hour before class starts, and Rokwa, seeing the effort, allows him in. Without hesitation, Jake hands over payment, 2 months up front and more than what Rokwa usually charges. Maybe he hopes the extra cash might open the door to a more friendly conversation, but Rokwa isn't taking the bait and quickly sends him off to the gym. No small talk necessary. Jake figures he'll just do his own thing until class begins, but his attempts fall flat. Rokwa steps in, pointing out Jake's stubbornness and a serious breathing problem that keeps tripping him up. No wonder Jake can't land that 3-punch combo followed by a round kick to shift a beanbag heavier than it looks. Rokwa demonstrates, each strike timed with steady breath, effortlessly sliding the bag from one end of the rack to the other. The ease of it catches him off guard, but stubbornness keeps him mocking as he struggles to coordinate breathing with each strike. Rokwa reminds him that every fighter has their own rhythm, so he better not undermine. The early hour slips away and other students filter into the class. Meanwhile, Ryan basks in the glow of his pretty, quietly distant girlfriend, surrounded by the popular crowd that hangs on his every move. Back at home, Jake's mom returns to her familiar routine, tidying up after the kids and keeping the house in order. At the gym, Jake grows more fluid in his movements, no longer just mimicking, but actually training. His effort doesn't go unnoticed. His classmates begin to warm up to him, and even Rokwa offers an approving smile from across the room. Now that Mom's around again, Silence doesn't stand a chance. She's already clocked the missing money, and the bag in Jake's hand only sharpens her suspicion. He doesn't argue, just sets it down, resigned, while she pulls the zipper and finds exactly what she feared. The gloves say enough. He's been fighting. She doesn't raise her voice, just tells him sternly that it has to stop. Jake had asked before, casually, and Rokwa had brushed it off. But it turns out he really does live in the gym. No mystery about how he trains the second his eyes open. Later in class, Baja and Jake end up in the same group, and whatever ice was meant to have thawed hasn't even cracked. Jake still carries the heat from before, and Baja convinced her apologies should have settled things, doesn't appreciate the cold shoulder. His patience thins, and he storms out, leaving her to seek out Ryan instead. She wants to talk somewhere quiet, but Ryan's fine holding court with his crew. She says the fight with Jake was anything but fair. Baja's growing disdain for Ryan's cocky, self-important attitude starts to get under his skin. He snaps, goes full beast mode, tearing into her, and spelling out just how much of her shine he claims credit for. He doesn't hold back, every word meant to put her back in check, but it only confirms what she's been feeling all along. The fact that he still gets off on being a bully is enough. It gives her all the reason she needs to walk out on him, and out of whatever they used to be. Jake takes his bottled-up fury to the gym, and it bleeds into every hit. Rokwa senses it immediately. The power's there, but it's all edge and no control. He steps into spar, trying to steady the rhythm, but Jake's on something else today. Sharp with both his hands and his attitude. Since they can't bring down the Knights on the field, Rokwa tries to reel him in. Calm as storm, but when it's clear Jake isn't willing to come down, he tells him to pack it up. Jake storms off, throwing a final jab, not with fists, but his mouth. Still, Rokwa keeps his cool. Max steps in, offering to trail behind and make sure Jake doesn't spiral. Jake zones out, lost in flashbacks, barely hearing Max's voice. Max halts the car in the middle of the road, trying to snap him out of it. Behind them, a horn blares. Some driver in a rush. That's all it takes. Jake unravels. He steps out, fists flying before anyone knows what's happening. Max records and others do too. It's ugly, fast, and soon all over the internet. Thousands of views and Jake right at the center. There's a lakeside party and Jake shows up, though he's not the only familiar face in the crowd. Ryan's there too, floating through with his usual smug energy, and so is Baja, though the two of them are clearly not a thing anymore. Jake draws whispers. People have seen the video, and Baja makes her way toward him, probably hoping to soften whatever's left between them. But Jake keeps his distance, his tone flat, giving her nothing. Ryan watches, reading the tension like a scoreboard. He waits, then trails Jake toward the restroom, less for a chat, more to remind him who still thinks he's in charge. Fed up and limping, Jake's ready to drag himself home, alone. But Max keeps poking, won't let it go. So Jake finally gives in and asks about Beatdown. Ryan had thrown the name around earlier, and now it's starting to stick. Max takes him back to his place and pulls it up on his computer. What Jake sees is something else entirely. Raw footage, underground hype, crowd-packed showdowns. Beatdown isn't just a fight, it's the fight. A brutal, no-frills tournament with the kind of following that makes it feel like the Super Bowl of the street circuit. Only the best get invited, and the clock's ticking. It's just a month to go, and the invites come in by text. Rokwa sees the bruises and the shake in Jake's stance and doesn't say much, just throws him out. The rule was clear. Once Jake's gone, Rokwa lets his own anger slip, driving a heavy fist into the bag once. At home, Charlie's black eye raises alarms. Their mom is furious. Jake's supposed to lead, not make things worse. She's tired of always fixing what breaks. Charlie confesses it was a tennis accident, but the point stands. Jake's still the example he looks up to. Jake's return to the gym is met with a slammed door. Rokwa isn't ready to forgive, but Jake doesn't back down. He waits outside with Max, looking for a chance. When he sees Rokwa at the grocery store, Jake opens up, blaming the anger inside him that's caused problems with his family. The gym is the only place where that anger quiets down. Rokwa listens, then lets Jake back in. The training isn't easy. Rokwa pushes Jake hard. Long push-ups, tough cardio, non-stop boxing, wrestling that tests his strength. What would normally take a year gets packed into a few days. Even Jake's diet changes, eating raw foods to match the training. A spark of friendship flickers between Jake and Rokwa as they race along the beach, exchanging playful jabs. Jake presses Rokwa to share why he's so devoted to the gym, and finally, Rokwa opens up. His commitment stems from a painful past, the loss of his father's favorite son, Joseph. Though younger, Joseph outshone him in many ways and was Daddy's favorite. After Joseph was shot at a club, Rokwa and his father drifted apart. Training continues, with lessons that reach beyond fighting, lessons for life. Jake takes them to heart and even shows up at Charlie's tennis game, lifting his brother's spirits. Their mom, surprised by Jake's presence, tries to mend fences, but Jake feels they're already on better ground. In the spirit of making things right, Jake finds Baja at the cafe and asks to speak. He owns up, apologizing for how he's acted and clearing her of any blame. Baja, drawn to men who can take responsibility, softens. Without another word, they lean in and share a kiss. Easy, warm, and full of that long overdue understanding. Later that evening, Jake's mom stops by the gym, Rokwa's alone, and they talk about Jake, how different he's become. She's grateful for Rokwa's steady presence and wishes Jake would stop punishing himself over his father's death. Rokwa's sure the boy's on the right path. She leaves next month's payment and quietly steps out. At the cafe, Max is buzzing with excitement over Jake's upcoming match at Beatdown. But Jake's got other plans. He tells Max he's backing out, causing his friend's excitement to drain instantly. Jake doesn't flinch. He won't feed Ryan's ego. If Ryan wants to fight, he can fight himself. Away from the cafe, Jake walks Baja home. She throws a few playful jabs at him, and he answers with a gentle sweep that sends her laughing to the ground. There's an ease between them now, the kind that grows from healing old wounds. With flirtation in the air, Jake taps her behind and earns a kiss in return, the moment swelling into something deeper. But just as it's getting warm, Charlie barges in with a phone pressed to his palm. It's Mom, and she's calling. The mood drops as quick as it built. Elsewhere, Ryan is lounging with his friends when a minor clash with his father sparks. The exchange is short and sharp. His dad, cut from the same arrogant cloth, asserts dominance without raising his voice. His friends watch, stunned, then news breaks. Jake's out of the fight. Ryan's blood boils. He isn't done yet, not by a long shot. That same night, Ryan pulls up outside the gym, needing to hear the news for himself. Jake's not around, but Max is, and he confirms it. Ryan nods, already plotting, and invites Max over to hang out. Max, assuming it's peace, agrees. He couldn't be more wrong. The night ends with Max bloodied and slumped on the floor, Ryan towering over him. There's no reason or warning, just a calculated beatdown. Even his friends hesitate, unsure what line Ryan's just crossed. Later, Jake hears a knock and opens the door to see a car speeding off. On the ground is Max, who is barely conscious. Jake's fury is instant, and Baja pleads with him not to take the bait, but Jake's not hearing any of it. As he storms out, Rokwa intercepts him. Jake's burning to go, but Rokwa lays it flat. Break the rule again, and he's done. This stops Jake in his tracks. Their talk turns honest with Rokwa, finally admitting if he could go back, he'd change everything about what happened to his brother. That admission softens the edge. He doesn't stop Jake, but leaves him with one truth. He has to control the outcome. Jake rushes home, bags his gear, and crosses paths with his mom. She doesn't try to stop him either, as it's his fight to finish. Jake arrives at the beatdown venue, adrenaline pumping, ready to make a statement. The event kicks off with a knockout in the opening match, and the crowd is buzzing. As Jake steps into the ring, he's met with boos, while Ryan enters to deafening cheers. But plans shift. The announcer corrects a scheduling error. Jake and Ryan won't face off immediately. It's now a tournament, and each fighter has to earn their way. The matches begin. Ryan cruises through his opponents with calculated aggression, while Jake holds his own with calm precision. Things stay smooth until the quarterfinals, when Jake takes a vicious kick to the ribs. Ryan sees it and files the weakness away. Backstage, Jake's hurting, clutching his side and needing more than ice. Baja finds him and lifts his spirits with a few quiet words and a kiss that does more than painkillers ever could. Meanwhile, Ryan crosses a line in his match, jabbing an opponent in the eye. The ref doesn't hesitate. He's disqualified despite loud protests from his crew. Jake, now prepped for his semifinal, hears the news and immediately steps down. If it's not Ryan, the fight means nothing. As he walks out, Ryan is waiting. Without a word, he challenges Jake, and soon the crowd follows, pouring into the parking lot where the real showdown begins. Ryan comes in strong, targeting Jake's ribs with brutal precision. The pain is sharp, but Jake holds steady, refusing to break. Even when Ryan locks his neck, squeezing tight, Jake doesn't tap, despite the cries from the crowd and Baja's panic. Then Jake shifts. He draws from everything: his grief, his guilt, Rokwa's lessons, and channels it into raw strength. He breaks free, lands a flurry of punches, then finishes with a clean, devastating kick that sends Ryan crashing down. The fight ends not with noise, but with a look. Ryan nods in respect, and Jake returns it, calm and composed. Later, Rokwa takes a step back from the gym to reconnect with his roots, and Ryan finally lets go of the anger he's carried for far too long.